Welcome everybody to Odoo Experience 2025, Day 3. Thank you so much for attending my talk about integrating truck stock with warehouse inventory and replenishment in Odoo V18. So first off, a brief introduction. My name is Nemo. I'm the Director of Operations for Sodexis. I co-lead our global team of business analysts who help different customers implement Odoo with the highest possible return on investment. I co-lead it specifically with Cecily Barreto, who helped me prepare today's presentation along with Dua, so big shout out to the both of them for helping me prepare the presentation and also the demo. All right, so a little bit of context first for this demo. So what you're gonna see today is a configuration that will help you fully utilize the Odoo inventory app to manage truck stock, which is a common challenge for companies with field technicians where you might be working in an environment where you don't really have a fixed schedule. So in the use case for today's example, I'm going to be imitating a plumbing company where you have technicians that are kind of out on the road and you might get phone calls from customers with emergencies, and you need to make sure that that truck for each technician in your plumbing team is going to be correctly stocked every morning so that they can help deal with emergencies and issues that might pop up while they're out on the road. This solution requires multiple warehouses and a multi-step routes to be active in your database. So I'll show you actually how to configure everything before I show you a few of the use cases in the demo. A default warehouse is set up for each technician to track the stock for their truck, and then all materials for their tasks are pulled from that specific warehouse that represents their truck. So notably, I won't be showing you today the fleet or the field service applications, but instead we'll be focused on a more basic use case with warehouses and routes that shows you how you can manage the stock in your different trucks with some simple internal transfers and reordering rules. And so this is really a good use case for companies that might not have 100 trucks in their fleet. They might not have the need for a field service app because they don't have a predefined schedule for their work, but instead you just have 5 trucks. You know what needs to be in each truck each day for each technician to be successful, and you just want to make sure that every morning each truck is stocked to the right level with the key different products. So more specifically, what will be covered in the demo. So I'll be first showing you the configuration of a warehouse for the truck and the setup of a replenishment route that transfers inventory from your main warehouse stock to the truck's warehouse. And we're going to set up also a user-defined default for the user that is the truck operator, so that every time they sell products, it will automatically pull stock from the warehouse that is their truck, that represents their truck. As part of the daily prep, we'll use the scheduler that runs automatically overnight in Odoo to resupply the truck through an internal transfer from warehouse stock to the individual technician's truck, their individual warehouse. And the idea is that every morning when the technician arrives with their truck at the main warehouse and they need to resupply, they will have a checklist of exactly what they need to resupply in their truck based off what they sold or what they used the prior day. Then when the technician goes on site and they do a sale, we'll create some sales orders for multiple customers that we aid throughout the day with their plumbing emergencies. And we'll go ahead and confirm some different sales orders, and that will obviously take stock out of our truck, and so the stock in our truck will go down. And then at the end of the day, the scheduler will rerun again, and we'll automatically know for the next morning exactly what we need to resupply into our truck for the next day. We'll also do one specific edge case for a special order where we need an out-of-stock item. So maybe we do a quick patch and we fix the initial emergency, the initial plumbing emergency for a specific customer, but we know that they need a special part in order to have like a long-term fix, and so we want to come back the next day or a few days later and install the final piece for the long-term fix. In that case, it might be a specialty piece that we don't have in stock either in our truck or at our main stock in our main warehouse. And in that case, we'll show you how with the reordering rules we can automate the creation of a purchase order from our vendor, and then we can confirm the purchase order, confirm the receipt, do the internal transfer, and then eventually re-deliver and install that final piece for the customer as well. So that's the idea for the demo. A few different steps we'll go through in the standard workflow, and then we'll show you that edge case. So without further ado, let's jump into the demo now. So here what you're seeing is a test database that we've set up for today's demo, working off of V18. And so first I'll walk you through the configurations that I just mentioned. So the first thing we want to do is click out of the URL and we'll search. So one of the things you might not know about Odoo is that on the dashboard there's a hidden search bar. So if you just start searching for a term and typing on your keyboard, you can pull up the important information. So in this case, we'll start by looking at the warehouses. So by default with Odoo, if you have the inventory application set up, you'll have this warehouse stock warehouse, which is your main stock and your main location where your individual technicians are getting resupplied from. And then in this case, we're signed in as Mitchell admin, the admin user, and we've configured Mark's truck to be a secondary warehouse. So one of the limiting factors a lot of my customers, it's like a mental loop that a lot of my customers struggle with, is the idea that a warehouse doesn't need to be an actual warehouse. A warehouse can be any place where you need to track stock and track internal transfers or the movement of your stock within your organization. So in today's use case, we're looking at tracking stock in a truck. You can also think of this as stock you want to track, like that you have on consignment with a store. So if you don't sell your stock directly to a retailer that's then going to resell it to their end customers, but instead you put stock in a retail partner store on consignment, you can use kind of the same concept where that store, that retail store, becomes like a warehouse where you want to track stock. So in this case, we have Mark's truck set up as a warehouse. We have to click this option to resupply from your company. And then in the routes, one of the simple things that we did is we modified this route to supply from our main stock to resupply Mark's truck using a one-step process. So a standard like resupply workflow would be the outgoing location has to deliver it and then the incoming location has to receive it. In this case, we just modified this, so it's a much simpler rule, and there's just one document we need to validate, where when products are needed in Mark's truck stock, we're going to do an internal transfer from the main stock directly to the truck. So it'll be just one document to validate. So that's one of the things that we configured. The other thing that we have to configure to make this all work is the products and all of the reordering rules. So in this case, for our plumbing use case, we've configured 3 simple products. The first 2 products work in very much the same way. They just have a simple reordering rule that says we automatically want to resupply this location that represents Mark's truck. Whenever the minimum quantity, whenever the quantity drops below 10, we want to bring it back to 10. So all we're saying is every single morning when Mark shows up and he is starting work, we want to make sure that he knows exactly how to resupply his truck so that he has exactly 10 units of this product, plumbing part 1. And then what I can show you is that if we come here to the on-hand smart button, we can see that we have 100 units in our main warehouse stock and therefore 0 units in Mark's truck right now. And we did the exact same setup now for plumbing part 2. So again, if we come here into the reordering rules, we will see we have this rule to resupply Mark's truck to get him to exactly 10 units every single morning. And the on-hand quantity is very similar. Again, we have 100 units in our main warehouse, our main stock for the company, and we have 0 units in Mark's truck. Then for the third product, we did it a little bit differently. So for this product, we have 0 on hand right now. So we have none of those specialty parts for that edge case I'll show you in a few minutes on hand. And instead, for the reordering rules, we just went ahead and said, we want to resupply Mark's truck on demand, and also our main stock, we want to resupply it on demand. So this is just another way of configuring like a classic made-to-order route or made-to-stock route where you're just purchasing it from your vendor when you're running out of stock. When you actually need the stock, you purchase it, but you don't actually have any in your stock that you keep day in and day out. So that's how we configured the products. And then the last thing I'll show you is the user defined defaults. So for this, in order to find this part of the configuration within your search bar, you need to make sure that you're in the developer mode or the debug mode. So that's another big tip I have for all of my customers is systematically in the Odoo-based workflows, Odoo actually hides some key information and key fields, including key models and key configurations from the search bar. And so I always recommend to my customers to make sure you're using the developer mode and you've turned that on through your settings in your browser so that you're sure that you're seeing all the key information. So here for the user-defined defaults, one of the things that we did is we defined a field, the warehouse field on the sales orders, specifically for this user, Mark Demo, to be warehouse 3. So you guessed it, warehouse with ID 3 is Mark's truck. So every time Mark's user will create a sales order, the warehouse will default to his truck, because obviously he's a field operator, he's a technician, a plumber that's out on the road. When he gets called with an emergency, he's going to go to the customer's house and he's going to try to fix the problem. And while he's fixing the problem, he will create a sales order for the parts that he's using that he needs to then invoice the customer for later. So we just want to make sure this is something you would have to configure for every truck. So similar to the warehouse, you're going to have a warehouse per truck. You're also going to have one user-defined default per user that identifies for each user their specific truck. Great, so that is how we configure it. So it's very simple, it's very basic. Again, no need to install the fleet or the field service applications and configure a bunch of more complex workflows. And now Mark, that technician, he can show up every day to work and know exactly what he needs to do. So now we'll switch to another page. So now you can see we're logged in as Mark Demo. And so what does Mark, as the technician, do every day? Well, he comes to Odoo and he's going to look first in the inventory app and he's going to check how he needs to supply his truck for that day. So, do you remember what we said? For the 3 products we looked at, the objective is that every morning Mark is going to have 10 units of part 1 and 10 units of part 2. I showed you the on-hand quantity where right now Mark's truck is completely empty. He's got no parts in it. So what we're going to do here is we're going to come to operations and we're going to mimic, by clicking on this button for procurement run scheduler, we're going to mimic the automated action that happens overnight in Odoo every night to run the reordering rules. So we're going to click on run scheduler, it's going to run in the background, and then we're going to refresh the page. And now you're going to see in this section of the page where it says internal transfers Mark's truck, it's going to say we now have 1 to process. So we're going to click on this. So this is what Mark will do every day. He'll come and he'll see he's got 1 internal transfer to process every day to stock his truck. He will click on this and open the one that is ready for his work that day. And in this case, he'll scroll down and he'll see he's got 10 units of part 1 to restock and 10 units of part 2, exactly like we said. So he'll go ahead and validate this internal transfer to say, okay, he moved the pieces into his truck is now fully stocked, and now he'll go out on the road and he will intervene and help customers with their plumbing emergencies. As he's doing that, he'll be then in the sales app and he'll be creating quotations and identifying the parts that he's using, and he might also be adding the services and the time that he spends with those different customers to fix their issues, because in addition to the parts, obviously, you're going to want to be billing the customers for the time and the services. So in this case, we'll say the first customer we're helping today is Abigail. And as part of that process, we had to use 6 units of part 1 and maybe 2 units of part 2. So we'll go ahead and confirm this sales order because we've assessed the problem, we know this is what we're going to use, and then on the delivery order, we'll validate that as well to say, okay, we actually used the parts now, and the customer confirms the initial sales order, and now we've used the parts, we've done the work, and we'll confirm the delivery order as well. Next, we can go back to our quotations and say we helped another customer later today, like Audrey, and we can say Audrey's fix took 2 units of part 2, for example. So we'll go ahead and confirm this one as well, and then we do the work and we validate that we delivered those parts by completing the work. So now we've used 6 units of part 1 and 4 units of part 2. So now you can imagine that's it for the day. We help those 2 customers, we go home. When we come back to work the next day, we're again going to come to the inventory app, and the scheduler has run. And now again, we have the next internal transfer to process to restock our truck. And we can see immediately, okay, we know we have 6 units of part 1 and 4 units of part 2 to restock to get us back to the 10. The objective is to always have 10 of each part in our truck. So we can again validate this. And then you can see how this can simply help you define, just using basic products and basic reordering rules, exactly how much quantity you want in each truck. And then for each technician, it's very simple. They check they have one link they bookmark for the internal transfer they look at every morning, and then they're creating their sales orders and selling or using the products throughout the day. Now, what about the special edge case that I mentioned? So For the special edge case, we're going to go ahead and pretend that for one of those customers, we actually also needed one of those special parts, part 3, that we know we don't have in stock. So we'll go ahead and select part 3 and we say, okay, we actually need 2 of those in order to do the long-term fix for this customer sink or whatever might be broken. And so in this case, you can immediately see that Odoo is telling us we don't have this in stock in our warehouse. So again, this is the user-defined field that is being automatically filled. You may or may not have noticed it on the other sales orders, but Mark's truck is automatically filled as the warehouse for this user Mark demo because we define that in the user-defined demos. And so in this case, we don't have this in stock, but we can still confirm that we need this part. However, when we get to the delivery step, it's going to say the delivery is waiting because we don't have the part in stock in our truck, so we can't do anything. So then what will happen in the background, if we switch again to the admin view, now on the admin side, there is, first we're going to run the scheduler. So I'll go ahead and run the scheduler to make sure that the automated action ran to now create a purchase order. So remember, part 3, not only do we not have it in stock in the truck, we also don't have it in stock in our main warehouse. It's really a specialty part, and we're only going to order it from our vendor when we actually need it. So when we say when we need it, that's the demand that we just generated in the system with the sales order. So by confirming that sales order, we generated a demand that's going to go all the way back up the chain of all the documents and all the controls we configured, and it's going to tell us we actually need to now create a purchase order with the vendor for that product. And so if we open the products, we'll be able to see that here. If we go to part 3, in the purchase tab of the product, we have identified the vendor as Anita Oliver, and so now in the purchase app, we have in blue here a draft purchase order that was created for that particular vendor with the exact quantity of the product that we need. And so now you start to see the magic of Odoo, which is that everything is connected, and if you configure it correctly, it's really simple, in this case for a purchase manager, to just look every morning at what are the new draft purchase orders that are created, and how do I need to confirm those and validate those with my vendors to ensure that all the downstream operations happen as expected. In this case, we'll just add a unit price as well so that this is a bit more realistic. We'll go ahead and confirm the order as the purchase manager, and then our receipt team will have this receipt document that will arrive in their to-do list, and we can go ahead and validate this as well. So now you might think, okay, we should be ready to deliver it. But wait, we missed a step. We actually need to we still need to stock Mark's truck. So now we have received that product, that special product that we need in our main warehouse, but we still haven't actually restocked that product or added that product to the internal transfer to the daily stocking of Mark's truck. So let's go ahead and do that step. So if we come here again to the inventory, we see again, magically, it has appeared. We know that we need to do this internal transfer to resupply from the main warehouse our truck. We can see exactly the product that we're supposed to be picking up and the 2 units. So we'll go ahead and validate this. And now we're ready to actually deliver that and provide that final service to the customer of installing the special piece that we special ordered for them. So you can see that here in the top right, that it's in the ready state. This delivery order is now in the ready state. So we'll go ahead and validate that as the last step. And now we've fixed the customer's issue for the long term. So that's it for the demo. That's how it works, and that's how we suggest you set it up in Odoo to have a simple method for tracking your truck stock and helping to make your field operators a bit more efficient. I think there's a lot of businesses that could benefit from this integration. I've listed a few of them here on the page, but basically any business where you have people out in the field that are not working necessarily in a predefined schedule that you can add to the field service app, and you don't need the complexity of the fleet app where you're trying to optimize deliveries and optimize services based on the size of the trucks or the capacity of the trucks and the weight and the size of your products, but instead you just have a small team and you want to make sure that every person in your team knows exactly how they need to restock a standard quantity of products in their trucks every day in order to fix the majority of any customer emergencies or customer issues that they might be on call for. I think this could be a great workflow for those kinds of businesses. Finally, a couple conclusions here. So you might have noticed in this demonstration, there's no custom code There are definitely opportunities for further automating things. For example, we could automate the step for actually confirming and sending the purchase order to the vendors, so you don't need someone manually like reviewing those and clicking through those each day. If you have a good relationship with your vendors and you know how that part's supposed to work. And there really is a proved efficiency, and there's a reduction in potential errors because you're not letting every technician pick and choose how they restock their truck, but you're actually defining standard rules for them. And as I mentioned, I'm from Sodexis. We're one of the Odoo partners. We've been 100% specialized in Odoo since 2012, and I'd be happy to talk to you more about this use case or any other use cases you might need help with in the future. And now I welcome any questions you might have. And this is the pad link in the QR code, so if you haven't had a chance to add your questions yet, you can do it right here, right now.
Thank you for your presentation, Ms. Keller. The first question is, what were the main business pain points Sodexis saw when companies try to manage truck stock manually?
When trying to track it manually, you said?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe I can reiterate, we're an Odoo partner, so I don't actually have field operators or trucks that go out on the road. My team's specialized in helping our customers get the most out of Odoo. So what I can tell you is that, yeah, the biggest pain points we see with our customers when they're trying to track their stock manually is that in these small teams with these small businesses, every person does it their own way. So each field technician thinks they know the best way to stock their truck, and what they basically just do it ad hoc. Like they look at what's in the truck and what they think might be missing, and they throw things in there, and that can lead to great inefficiencies because the last thing you want to do is show up to a customer site and they have an emergency and you want to fix an issue for them and you don't have the basic things in stock in your truck in order to get that done. And so this really helps you avoid that, and it helps people at the management level standardize the rules for what each technician needs in stock in their truck.
Thank you. And what happens when somebody else needs to use a truck assigned to Mark?
It's totally possible. So I definitely did the demonstration from like the perspective of Mark, but you can imagine if we had more warehouses configured and more internal transfers for different operators. I mean, a manager or anybody with access to the inventory app can also see the other documents assigned to other team members. So if Mark is out sick one day and somebody else has to fill in for him and use his truck, this is another reason why this kind of configuration is very impactful, because anybody can step in for Mark and reassign an individual transfer to themselves for one or multiple days as they're covering for Mark if he might be sick or he might be out on holiday. So it's the system's very adaptable. This solution is very adaptable to having people fill in.
And have you explored IoT devices just like RFID, smart bins to automatically track parts usage in vans?
Yeah, I haven't done anything with RFID chips or like smart scales. Like some companies will also have smart scales like in their warehouses. So when the weight drops below a certain weight, they know they have to reorder, for example. What we've done a lot with Sodexis is the use of scanners, especially in the last couple versions of Odoo. Any smartphone becomes a scanner, and you can use smartphones with the Odoo app the barcode app, to scan products as you're moving them from the main warehouse into the truck, and then that can be your way of tracking the quantities that you're moving. So scanners is probably a more applicable use case for this particular one.
Great, thank you. And can you replenish the truck from several warehouses?
Sure. Yeah, anything's possible with the routes in Odoo. We would just have to discuss in more detail what your specific use case might look like, how many warehouses you want to resupply from. In particular, if you're storing different products in different warehouses, then obviously in those cases the pull rules will go through different warehouses. That's the kind of use case I'd love to discuss in more detail after the talk. So if you submitted that question, you can find me after the talk and we can go through it.
Another warehouse question. How can you make a warehouse at your customer, for instance, for a spare part which will be sold when they need them, and for a spare, fast pace, they're already at his place?
Sure. Yeah, so I think that's very similar to the consignment use case that I mentioned. So for a consignment use case, whether it be with a retailer or with a customer where you stock things in their office, but they only pay you for those products as they use them, and you still own them. All you need to do is configure a warehouse with the name of that retail partner or that customer where you're storing the products, and then again, you have the internal transfers with the reordering rules where you can automate the creation of the internal transfers that tell you, okay, you need to restock this customer because they've fallen below the expected number of units that they want to have in stock. And then what happens is the customer needs to tell you, then the retail partner or the customer needs to tell you when they use the pieces. So at the end of each week or at the end of each month, they send you a report with the list of products and the number of units that they took out of that stock and that they used. And then you can import that into a sales order in Odoo, and you just need to set the warehouse from which you delivered those products to be the warehouse that I just mentioned, that consignment warehouse that is the placeholder for the retail partner or the placeholder for that customer where you're stocking products for them. And then that enables you to then confirm the delivery order, which automatically takes the stock out of that location and says it was now officially handed over to the end customer of the retailer or to that customer that's using it. And that also then enables you to do all of the invoicing for the products you delivered. So it's a pretty simple use case. I'm happy to, again, explain it in more detail, show you a demo of what it looks like after the talk if you'd like.
Perfect. And the last question is it possible to create a location for Mark instead of a warehouse?
A location for Mark, like a sub-location under an existing warehouse?
Yeah, I assume.
I wouldn't do it that way because on the sales order, the user-defined fields, you want to be able to select the warehouse at a high level for the user-defined defaults for the sales orders that they're selling. I'm not sure it would be possible to do it as a location. I think the reordering rules would work for like restocking the truck, but I think on the sales order level, you really select the warehouse you're delivering from, not an individual location. So that's my initial thought on that, but again, something I'd have to discuss and look in detail.
They can yeah. Go further with this question afterwards.
Sure, exactly.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
Yeah, thank you.